Okay, guys, this is our lesson today. It's kind of a game called X marks the spot. And the directions say complete each X. The top number is the product of the two numbers. I'll put a little dot here to remind us it's product. The bottom number is the sum of the two numbers on the sides. Okay, now this is going to get us warmed up and ready for trinomial factoring the following day. So let's see what we've got. So we are looking to fill in the two sides of the X with two numbers that multiply to the number 7 and add to the number 8. Well, 7 is a prime number, which means it's only divisible by itself and 1. So that's got to be the answer. So 1 times 7 is 7. 1 plus 7 is 8. So that's our answer. So again, we're trying to multiply to 13, add to 14. So what two numbers multiply to 13 and add to 14? Well, once again, just like the number 7, 13 is prime. Okay, so 1 times 13 is 13, and 1 plus 13 is 14. Next one. Again, we're multiplying to 10, adding to 7. You don't have to add the dot and the plus. I just like it as kind of a visual cue, I guess. Now, this one, 10 is not prime. So what factors of 10, again, you're asking yourself what two numbers multiply to 10 but add to 7. That has to be 2 and 5, because it's really just either 1 and 10 or 2 and 5. That's your only choices. So let's keep going down here. Second row, I'm going to go ahead and fill in the dot and the plus. Again, just a visual cue for me, not necessary. If you don't want to write it in, it's not a big deal. Two numbers that multiply to 12 but add to 8. If you don't know, list all the possible numbers. So if you can't remember all the factors of 12, two numbers that multiply to 12, start with 1 to 12, or 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Those are all the combinations. If you go in order, smallest to largest, you should end up with a big U of all the factors of 12. And since 3 and 4 are just one apart, then you know you've got them all. So again, the two factors that add to 8 then, obviously, are 2 and 6. So that's our answer. Okay, so 2 times 6 is 12, 2 plus 6 is 8. Okay, next one. Factors of 18 that add to 19. Well, let me see if you can see a pattern here. This was a 7 plus 1 is 8. This one in the top row, middle, was 13 plus 1 is 14. Now we've got 18 plus 1 is 19. If you kind of see the pattern there, if the sum is just one more than the product, it's going to have to be the number itself and the number 1. Okay. 16, product of 16, sum of 8. It's got to be 4 and 4. Okay, two numbers that multiply to 16 but add to 8. Next row. Actually, I'm going to skip and go down here to the bottom row. You can fill in the others if you want. Oh, that's a plus, sorry. Product, sum, sum. Okay, so this has got a couple different blank spaces. So we've got to kind of figure out what we're putting. We got to use the information they give us. So if the product is 15 and one of the factors is 3, that means the other factor has to be 5. Well, then 3 plus 5, this has to be 8. Sometimes I think these are even easier. Same thing on the next one in the middle there. What plus 4 equals 11? It's got to be 7. Well, then we need the product. So 4 times 7 is 28. Okay. Next one. What plus 8 is 12? It's got to be 4. And then 4 times 8 is 32. Okay, these were all pretty straightforward. They were also all positive numbers. So now, next page are some negatives. Okay, so I'm going to start us off here by putting the dot and the plus, dot and plus, dot and plus. Okay, now, factors of negative 12 that add to 1. Okay, now again, a negative. If your product is a negative, that means one of your two factors has to be negative. Okay, so again, if you don't know, make a list of them. -1 and +12, +1 and -12. -2, +6, 2, -6. -3 and 4, 3, -4. Then go back through your list and look and see which pair adds up to 1. Well, it's got to be this one. Okay, so our answer here is going to be a -3 and a +4. Now, it makes no difference what order you put them in, on what side. Now, 15. Notice the product is +15, but the sum is -8. What does that tell me just by looking at the signs? It tells me that both of these numbers have to be negative. They have to be, because the only way to get a product of a positive is if both factors are negative or both factors are positive. Well, the only way to get those two factors to also add to a negative is if they're both a negative. So it has to be -3 and -5. So use the cues. Make sure you're looking and paying attention to the signs. Okay, two numbers that multiply to -21 but add to -4. Well, 21 only has like two pairs of factors, 1 and 21, 3 and 7. So it's got to be 3 and 7. And which one's negative? Because the 4 is negative, it's got to be the 7 that's negative. Okay, so +3 and -7 add to -4. Second row. Again, product on top, sum on bottom. Product on top, sum on bottom. So, first one, product of 48, -48, sorry, with a sum of 8. Well, again, if you need to list all of the factors of -48, if this one kind of stumps you, list them out. Sometimes I really think it is beneficial to just start writing them out. So 1 and 48, 2 and 24. And I've got to do each side with a negative because the product is negative. So that means one of the factors has to be. -3 and 16, 3 and -16. -4 and 12, 4 and -12, -6 and 8, 6 and -8. Well, the one that adds to +8 has got to be this one right here. Okay, so -4, +12. Okay, now next one. Again, it's like the one above it. If we're multiplying to a positive but adding to a negative, the first thing that jumps out at me is both of these have to be negative. Okay, so it's got to be -2 and -9. We don't have that many choices for 18. -3 and -6 add to -9, so that's not it. Okay, -40. Now, this one kind of stumped me. So I literally wrote out my list. -1 and 40, 1 -40. -2 and 20, 2 -20. -3, not -3, sorry. I was just going on about my business, not really paying attention. 3 won't go in, 4 will. -4 and 10, 4 and -10. -5 and 8, 5 and -8. None of those combinations add up to a +8. So this one is actually not possible. Okay. Now, the next row. Product, sum. Product, sum. Product, sum. And again, we've got some different empty spaces here. So factors of -36 that add to 0 got to be opposite signs of the same number if it adds to 0. So a -6 and a +6. Okay, now one of the factors of -30 is 1, so that means the other factor has to be -30. So then what does that have to add to? -29. Now, on this one, what would you add to -7 to get to -3? Well, you'd add a +4. So then the product of -7 and +4 is -28. Okay, last row. Again, product, sum, product, sum, product, sum. Okay. If one of the factors of 42 is -6, that means the other one has to be -7. Have to have two negatives to give a positive when you're multiplying. But when you're adding, then it's -13. Okay, what do you add to -4 to get to -13? It's got to be -9. So then -9 times -4 is +36. And the last one, what do you add to +8 to get to +5? Well, it's going to have to be a negative number because you went down in value. So you're going to have to add a -3, and then 8 times -3 is -24. Okay, now not too difficult, but I hope these examples were helpful, and this is going to help us when we get into factoring trinomials in the next lesson.